It started with the walls. I'd been on the force 7 years by then, long enough to stop jumping at shadows, but not so long I'd gone numb. Our department had picked up a new shift rotation that month. Nights. A lot of domestic calls, drunks, noise complaints. The usual grim lullaby. I was alone in my cruiser the first time I responded to the Jenkins house on 43rd. The call had come in as a wellness check. Neighbors said they hadn't seen Margaret Jenkins in over a week. No one picked up the phone when dispatch tried. I remember the house looked normal enough from the outside. No broken windows. Porch light on. What struck me, even before I knocked, was the sound. Faint, constant. Like someone dragging their fingers lightly along the inside of the drywall. Not scuttling like rats. Slower. Intentional. I froze for a second, ear tilted to the vinyl siding. Then I knocked. No answer. Policy said I could go in if I believed there was imminent danger. So I did. The place was immaculate. Fridge humming, table set for one. The only thing off was the temperature. It was cold inside. Really cold, like someone left a window open. But every window was shut tight. I checked every room. No sign of Margaret. Then I opened the hallway closet, and there she was. Not in the closet. Not really. But I could hear her. Somewhere behind the wall. "Ma'am?" I said, leaning in, voice tight. The noise got louder. A dragging shuffle. Then silence. I called out again. Nothing. Just the low hum of my own breathing. I called it in, got the detectives and forensics on scene. They ripped open that wall. Nothing. No crawl space. No body. No blood. Just insulation and empty studs. The official report chalked it up to a neighbor hearing things. I didn't push it. But I couldn't let it go either. The sound kept coming back, though never when anyone else was around. And it started happening at other houses. Always during wellness checks. Always the same dragging, slow scrape behind the wall. It followed me from call to call. And I never told anyone. It got to the point where I knew what the report would say before I even stepped inside. Resident deceased. No signs of struggle. Natural causes. I started dreaming about the houses. Not the people. Just the homes. Always from above, like I was hovering near the ceiling. The layout would be wrong, doors in the wrong place, hallways too narrow, staircases that ended in blank walls. But the wallpaper was always the same. Yellowed with age, peeling at the corners. And always that sound. Sometimes in the dream I'd find the source. A knot of limbs half submerged in drywall, fingernails worn flat, mouth pressed open in a silent scream. The worst part was the expression. Not fear. Not pain. Recognition. Like they knew me. I stopped sleeping. Started taking overtime just to avoid it. But the houses kept coming. So I did something stupid. I looked up old property reports. Every home where I'd heard the sound, every single one, had gone unsold for years. Not because no one wanted them. Because no one would stay. Last week, I knocked on the door of one of those homes, off duty, just me and my flashlight. The new owners were already gone. No furniture. No electricity. But the door was unlocked. I stepped inside and heard it again. Closer this time. Behind the wall to my left. I don't know why I said it. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe it was madness, but I said my own name. And the sound stopped. The silence didn't last. After I said my name, it held for maybe 3 seconds, thick and heavy, like the house was holding its breath. Then the wall exhaled. A long, low groan from the studs, as if the wood itself was remembering something. I backed toward the door, heart in my throat, but didn't make it far. Something behind the drywall, something just above floor level, moved. Not shuffled. Not scratched. Moved. I should have run, but I didn't. Instead, I dropped to my knees, pressed my ear to the plaster. The surface was cold, almost damp. I heard it breathing. Not fast. Not shallow. Slow. Patient. like it had been waiting. I whispered again. "Who are you?" No response. But the sound of breathing grew louder. I swear, I could feel the exhale pushing through the drywall into my skin. Then came the sound I can't forget. Knuckles. Knocking. 5 soft taps from inside the wall, like a polite guest who didn't want to intrude. I staggered back and ran. Out the door. Into my cruiser. Didn't stop driving until I was in the next precinct. I tried to report it as a break-in. False call. Nobody was there. No response. But something changed after that. It started following me outside the houses. First, it was in my patrol car. I'd hear it while idling at intersections, the soft scrape from inside the dashboard, just behind the radio. I had the whole unit stripped and reinstalled. Didn't matter. It was still there. Then it came to my apartment. First night, I heard it in the kitchen, slow dragging across the cabinet doors. Then it moved to the bedroom walls. Always just as I was about to fall asleep. Always just out of reach. I bought cameras, thermal sensors, microphones. Nothing ever caught a thing. It wasn't until the 7th night that I lost it. I took a crowbar to my bedroom wall, tore it down in chunks. My landlord called the department. Said I was having some kind of breakdown. They forced me into leave. 2 weeks mandatory evaluation. I kept dreaming during that time. But the dream changed. I was still in the house. Still looking down from the ceiling. But now the figure behind the wall. It wasn't Margaret Jenkins. It wasn't anyone I recognized. It was me. It was me, crawling behind the drywall, palms bloodied, eyes wide and blind, mouth moving in slow, silent repetitions of my name. I tried to scream myself awake. Couldn't. Not until I felt the wall behind me breathe. When I woke, I was in the corner of my own room, crouched, fingernails bloody from clawing at the baseboards. I left the force that week. Didn't tell anyone why. Didn't pack much. Moved 2 cities over. Took a desk job. Figured I'd outrun it. But last night, it found me again. Not in a dream. I was wide awake, sipping bad coffee at 2 a.m. when I heard the scrape. Faint but clear. From behind the break room vending machine at the station. I walked over and waited. Nothing. Then, just before I turned to leave, I saw it. Etched into the dust on the floor. 5 lines. A handprint. Too small to be mine. Too fresh to be old. I wiped it clean. Told no one. And now I'm waiting. Because I know it'll come back. And one night, it won't just knock. It'll open. I've been working 911 dispatch for over a decade. You get used to the worst parts of people. Screaming. Blood. Lies. Mostly, though, it's just noise, people wanting the world to notice they exist. But there's one call I can't file away. One that doesn't fit in the drawer with the rest. It came in at 2:17 a.m. on a Wednesday. I was 2 hours into my shift. Bored. Drinking vending machine coffee that tasted like cardboard. The screen lit up. Line 4. Unregistered cell. No GPS. I put on my headset and answered with the script. "This is 911, what's your emergency?" There was silence at first. Then a sound, not a voice. Breathing. Slow, raspy, like someone had a plastic bag over their head. "Hello?" I said. "This is emergency services. Can you speak?" A man answered. But it wasn't speech. It was whispering. Fast. Panicked. Not in English. I couldn't place the language. I remember scribbling, foreign mail, on my pad, trying to make out even one word. Nothing stuck. Then, mid-whisper, he stopped. Dead air for 5 seconds. Then, in perfect English, "He's behind the door." My stomach dropped. "What door?" I asked. "Where are you?" He didn't answer that. He just said, "He's listening." Click. The call ended. No redial. No trace. The line number vanished from the screen. I flagged it for review. Protocol said I had to. But there was nothing to follow up on. No number. No location. The system treated it like it never happened. Just a phantom blip. I should have let it go. But the next night, same time, same line, 2:17 a.m., line 4 lit up again. Same breathing. Same whispers. But this time, there was a sound in the background. Rhythmic. Sharp. Like something metal tapping against wood. A pattern. Knock, knock, knock. Silence. Knock, knock. And then, that voice again. He's closer tonight. That time, I didn't speak. I just listened. And I think that was the only reason he kept talking. He said, "He comes through small places. Gaps. Corners. If you look too long, he stays." "Who is he?" I finally asked. The man paused. Then gave a name I won't repeat here. A name that didn't sound like any name I've ever heard. Not human. Almost a sound in itself, like a hiss and a sob tangled together. "He listens for the moment you break routine," the man said. "What routine?" No answer. Click. The third night, I was ready. Recorder running. Screen capture on. Same time. Same line. I answered, and this time I said nothing. I just breathed. Matched the rhythm of the call. He noticed. "You're not him," the voice whispered. "But you're close now." Then, very slowly, he said something that didn't make sense at first. "Check your logs. You've spoken to him already." Click. I thought it was a trick. Until I opened the call logs and noticed something strange. 3 months ago, I'd taken a call from a man reporting a break-in. Routine call. He said he heard footsteps in the attic. I'd stayed on the line with him for 6 minutes until officers arrived. Standard stuff. But the call transcript said something different than I remembered. It ended with my own voice asking, "Who's up there?" And the man's voice replying, "Not who." What? Only I never said that. I never wrote that. The audio file was gone. Just gone. And that man? He died that night. Officers found him with his front door still locked. All windows shut. No signs of forced entry. His throat crushed from the inside. After that night, I stopped trusting the logs. I started staying late after shifts, going through archived calls. The system keeps recordings for up to 5 years. Thousands of hours of human fear, bottled and tagged. But I wasn't looking for fear. I was looking for silence. Calls that dropped off. Conversations that never made it to report. I found 11. All at 2:17 a.m. All from unregistered numbers. Each lasted exactly 66 seconds. The voices varied, men, women, children, but the message was always the same in some form. "He's coming through." One of them was from a woman whispering from her closet. Another from a kid under a bed. One was just the sound of wind and breathing, but if you turned the volume up, buried beneath the static, you could hear knocking. Always the same pattern. Knock, knock, knock. Silence. Knock, knock. By the 6th tape, I started dreaming in that rhythm. That's when things started happening outside the job. I live alone, 3rd floor apartment, no elevator. One night I got home and found the chain lock, inside, hanging broken. Nothing was missing. No sign of forced entry. But I swear, everything felt shifted. My toothbrush was damp. My living room chair was slightly turned toward the hallway. And worst of all, my phone's voice memo app was open. Recording. The file was 66 seconds long. It captured only 2 sounds. The first was my front door slowly creaking open. The second was breathing, not mine. I didn't sleep that night. Next morning, I asked to be reassigned to a different shift. Daylight. Busier, louder, safer. They agreed, but it didn't matter. Because the calls didn't stop. They just started following me. 2 weeks ago, I was in line at a gas station when the man in front of me turned around and said, 2:17. I blinked. "Excuse me?" He stared at me, no recognition in his face. Then walked out, leaving all his items behind. The cashier asked if he was with me. I shook my head, but didn't answer. Because I already knew what would happen. That night my cell rang. 2:17 a.m. Unknown number. I didn't answer. But it rang again the next night. And the next. And now, something new has started. I'll hear knocking, even when I'm out, on walls that shouldn't echo. In the bathroom stall. On the side of my car. Inside the back of my closet. And always the same rhythm. Knock, knock, knock. Silence. Knock, knock. I started researching longshot ideas. Sleep studies. Auditory hallucinations. Shared delusions. Nothing quite fit. Until I found an old forum thread. Buried in a dead site archived. One user had posted about hearing knocks on their bedroom walls, always at the same time. They called it the hour of fracture. I saved the thread. When I went back to it a day later, the whole forum was gone. Server not found. I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's something supernatural, or psychological, or a bleed over between some radio frequency and a collective trauma we all somehow recognize but can't name. But I do know this. Last night, the call came again. And this time, it didn't disconnect. The voice whispered, "You've been marked." Then silence. Then, quietly, softly, so soft I almost didn't hear it, my own voice said, "Behind you." I didn't turn. Not then. But I will tonight. At 2:17. Just to see if it's really there. And if you never hear from me again, check the logs. There's a room in every station nobody talks about. Ours is down in the basement, past the boiler and through a door marked authorized personnel only. We call it the evidence locker, but it's really a graveyard. Rusted shelves stacked with the leftovers of other people's nightmares. Blood-stained knives, shattered phones, a teddy bear missing both eyes. When I was assigned to organize it, I thought it'd be boring. Just cataloging junk. Paperwork. Dust. Maybe a dead mouse or two. That first week was quiet. Until I opened the locker marked Case 442B. There was no file attached to it. Just the number. No name. No report. Inside was a VHS tape, unmarked, and a Polaroid photo that had nearly faded to white. The picture showed a hallway. Just a hallway. Linoleum floor, one flickering ceiling light, and a door at the far end that looked warped, like it had been stretched, subtly, impossibly. I brought the tape upstairs. We still had an old player in the break room, mostly used by the rookies to watch old training videos. I closed the blinds. Locked the door. The video was 6 minutes long. No audio. Just grainy footage of the same hallway from the photo. A man stands at the far end, his back to the camera. He's still for a long time. Then he starts walking. But he doesn't get closer. He walks, and the hallway seems to grow with him. Like the space between him and the camera stretches each time he moves. His steps are steady, deliberate, but the distance never shrinks. Then, at the 5:45 mark, he stops. Not because he's tired. Because he turns. Faces the camera. Even in that grainy footage, I could see his eyes were wrong. Too dark. Too wide. Like they weren't meant to close. He raised one hand. Not waving. Pointing. Straight at me. Then the screen cut to black. When I ejected the tape, the player spat it out like it was burning. The plastic casing was warm to the touch. I checked the catalog again. Case 442B. Wasn't listed anywhere. I asked my supervisor. She said it didn't exist. That the basement hadn't been used for storage in over a decade. But I knew what I'd seen. That night, I dreamed of the hallway. Same layout. Same flickering light. Except now, I was the one at the far end. And I couldn't move. I was frozen, watching someone approach. Not running. Just walking. Slowly. Patiently. Like they had all the time in the world. When they got close enough, I saw their face. It was mine. Except older. Sunken. Pale. And smiling. I woke up gasping. The next morning, I went back to the locker. The box was gone. Every trace of it. The shelf where I'd found it was now occupied by something else entirely. A box labeled Unfiled 1973. The dust on top was undisturbed. I asked the janitor if anyone had come down here during the night. He said the basement doors had been sealed for weeks. Then he asked me something I still haven't figured out how to answer. Why are you even down there? That room's been empty since the fire. What fire? I asked. He looked confused. The one that killed the guy cataloging evidence back in the 90s. They never found his body. Just his uniform. And that weird tape. I laughed it off. But when I checked the personnel records later that day, there was a name listed under Archive Clerk, 1996. It was my name. I thought maybe it was a joke. An elaborate prank. Someone screwing with me. But the record was real. My name, typed in faded ink on an old personnel file. Same spelling. Same birthday. A photo ID from 1996 that looked eerily like me, older, maybe, with a narrower face. Or maybe I was imagining the differences. I tried to tell myself that I was being paranoid, seeing patterns in noise. But then the hallway returned. Not in my dreams this time. I saw it while on patrol. There was a burglary report on a condemned building uptown. Just a standard check-in. I entered through the side, flashlight cutting lines through the dust. Graffiti on the walls, mold thick in the corners. And then I saw it. At the end of the corridor, through a busted frame, that hallway. Same flickering ceiling light. Same warped door. Just standing there, untouched by time. I stared for a solid minute, breath locked in my throat. Then, slowly, I stepped in. The sound changed instantly. Everything behind me went silent. Like the air had thickened. The light flickered in that exact rhythm I'd memorized from the tape. I reached for the radio, but the signal was dead. As I walked forward, I felt resistance, not physical, not exactly. Like my body was moving through syrup. The distance stretched the way it had on the video. For every step I took, the door moved an inch farther away. And then, someone stepped into the hallway behind me. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. I already knew what face I'd see. Instead, I sprinted toward the door, every part of my body screaming with effort. The hallway pulsed, lights strobing violently. And just before my hand reached the doorknob, I woke up. On the floor of the condemned building. Back near the entrance. My radio was clipped to my shoulder, squawking with static. Dispatch. Unit 11, report status. We lost you for 13 minutes. I told them I was fine. Just interference. But I didn't mention the hallway. Or the dream. Or the fact that my hands were covered in fresh dust, and fingerprints that weren't mine. When I got back to the station, I tried one last time to find the tape. Nothing. Even the break room TV had been removed. Equipment upgrade, they said. But the next day, a small manila envelope appeared on my desk. No return address. Inside was a Polaroid. The hallway again. Same warped door. But now the figure at the far end was fully visible. Face clear. Smiling. Wearing my badge. The reverse of the photo had something scrawled in pencil. See you in the stacks. That was 3 nights ago. Since then, I've been hearing it. In vents. Behind mirrors. In the walls of my apartment. That dragging sound. Like someone pacing. And the lights, mine now flicker in perfect rhythm. I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know if this is some recursion, some echo of who I used to be, or who I will become. But I know that hallway is real. It's a place. And somehow, it's waiting. Not for someone. For me. Tonight I'm going back. I'm going to find that door and open it. Maybe that's the only way to break the loop. Or maybe I've already opened it, and this is just the echo left behind. If I vanish, don't file a report. Just check the evidence locker. There's always room for one more box that I pulled him over for a broken taillight. That's all it was supposed to be. Highway 6, around 1:30 a.m. barely any traffic. I saw the car ahead drifting between lanes, figured the driver was drunk. I flipped on my lights and pulled him over near the mile marker just before the woods. Routine stop. I approached from the driver's side, flashlight steady. The window was already down. The man inside was perfectly still. White male. Mid-40s. Wearing a charcoal gray suit. Not wrinkled. Not dusty. Too clean. He didn't look at me. Just stared ahead, hands on the wheel, eyes wide open. I gave the usual line. "Evening, sir. License and registration?" No response. He didn't blink. Didn't even breathe, from what I could tell. Then I noticed something strange. His hands were shaking. Not trembling, vibrating, like they were being held in place against their will. I leaned a little closer and noticed a low, high-pitched whine coming from the dashboard. Not mechanical. Electronic. The kind of tone that makes your skull feel tight. "Sir?" I repeated louder this time. That's when he finally moved. His head turned toward me in one slow, unnatural pivot. The motion was off. Like he didn't quite remember how to do it. His neck creaked. There was something in his eyes that chilled me, the opposite of fear. A kind of acceptance. He whispered, "Please don't open the trunk." I took a step back. "I didn't say anything about the trunk," I said, hand moving toward my radio. But it was dead. Static. I tried my shoulder mic. Nothing. I tapped my flashlight against the car door. No reaction. The man's lips parted. Not a smile. "It's in there with me." I circled to the rear of the vehicle. The trunk was vibrating, barely perceptible, but enough to see it in the antenna. A faint rhythmic thump. I knocked. It knocked back. Twice. I stepped away, heart thundering. Reached for my weapon but didn't draw. I couldn't explain it. I didn't want to see what was inside. The man inside the car was now whispering something over and over. I leaned close to the driver's window and caught the last few words. "When the third knock comes, don't turn around." That's when I heard it. Knock. From behind me. I turned, against every instinct. No one there. Knock knock. This time from the side of the car. Opposite door. Nothing. Then silence. Until. Knock. Right behind my head. I turned. And saw it. Just a glimpse, reflected in the driver's side mirror. A shape. Not a man. Taller. Limbs too long, joints too many. Its head moved like a marionette caught mid-fall, tilting and jerking in pulses. It was standing behind me. And smiling. I spun around, nothing. Empty road. The driver whispered, "You turned." "I'm sorry." I yanked open his door. He was gone. Gone. Seat still warm, key still in the ignition. No sign of where he'd gone. Just his suit jacket neatly folded on the seat. And under it, a single sheet of paper. Typed in all caps. "Third knock is for you." I drove back to the station in silence. Didn't write the report. Didn't log the stop. But that night, in my apartment, just past 3 a.m., there was a knock on my door. Just one. But it didn't stop. It knocked for 13 minutes straight. Same steady rhythm. Not frantic. Not angry. Just patient. Calculated. I didn't open the door. I didn't even breathe. Eventually it stopped. And when I finally got the courage to look through the peephole, no one was there. But something was. Just beneath the door, a thin, folded note, pushed in like a receipt from under a hotel room. I picked it up with the tip of my pen. Same typewritten font as before. All caps. "Fourth knock means it's inside." I didn't sleep. Just sat in the kitchen with the lights on, trying to rationalize what happened. The call logs from my shift were clean. No record of the traffic stop. Even my cruiser GPS showed me parked at the side of the road for just 3 minutes. But I remembered more. I remembered the smell in that car. Ozone and static. Like a storm inside a sealed box. I remembered the driver's eyes fixed forward like he was trying not to scream. And I remembered the feeling I got after that third knock. Like someone was whispering in my own mind, tracing thoughts that didn't belong to me. The next day at the station, I asked about Case 1187. That was the only thing on the folded note I'd found under the jacket in the car. No one had heard of it. Not even the captain. I typed it into our internal system anyway. It returned one result. Archived. Sealed. Viewable only by Authorization Level 7. We don't have Level 7. Nobody in the whole building does. So I printed the screen and took it home. That night, the knocking started again. But this time, it was coming from inside the apartment walls. Soft. Uneven. Like someone tapping with their fingernails. I moved from room to room, trying to trace it. And then, I heard the front door open. Not break. Not creak. Open. Like someone used a key. I stood in the hallway, weapon drawn, heart hammering so loud it drowned out everything else. But no one entered. Just the sound of my living room clock ticking louder than it should. And then, knock knock. From inside the closet behind me. I didn't turn. I closed my eyes and counted to 10. But at 8, something touched the back of my neck. I spun. Empty closet. Except my cruiser dash cam, lying on the floor. Covered in dust. I hadn't seen it since the stop. I hadn't even realized it was missing. I brought it to my desk, plugged it into my laptop. One video file. Timestamp for the exact time I'd pulled that man over. The footage began as expected, me approaching the car, exchanging words. But then it shifted. The reflection in the side mirror, my face, began to warp. Stretch. The mouth kept moving even after I'd stopped talking. The eyes didn't blink. The shadow standing behind me was smiling. Frame by frame, that shadow grew taller. Its outline sharpened, like the camera could see something my eyes never could. At the 3:33 mark, the video skipped, hard. Then cut to black. Only audio now. Breathing. Mine. And then a new voice. Not the driver's. Not mine. Something older. Whispering. The 5th knock is the last. The clip ended. My screen froze. And from behind my monitor I heard it. Once. Twice. Knock. Knock. I haven't heard the 5th yet. But I will. And I don't think anyone hears it twice. The footage wasn't mine. That was the first problem. It showed my badge number, my name stitched on the vest. The timestamp matched my patrol shift. But I never recorded it. I couldn't have. I was across town, processing a vandalism report in a gas station parking lot. But there it was, an unlabeled file on the department server. BCM_1123_UNK. I was combing through backups after a data corruption report when I found it. Curious, I clicked play. It started normal, dash cam audio. A call coming through the radio, suspicious activity, 12th and Elmore, rear of the abandoned library. The officer, me, apparently, confirmed and proceeded. Only I never went near 12th and Elmore that day. Still, the video showed a patrol car pulling up behind the library. The building had been shuttered for years, red tagged after part of the ceiling collapsed. The footage jumped to body cam mode. I stepped out, flashlight on, moving toward the back entrance. The silence was wrong. I know how night sounds. Distant sirens. Dogs. The hum of the city. But this video, nothing. Even the boots on gravel made no noise. The door creaked open on the screen. The beam from the flashlight cut through dust and shadows. I moved slow, deliberate, down a narrow hallway lined with shelves. Not library shelves, too narrow. More like storage. Then, suddenly, I spoke. "What are you doing here?" My voice. Calm. Flat. The camera tilted slightly, as if watching something just out of frame. For a few seconds, there was only the sound of breathing. Then a whisper. I never left. The camera turned. There was a figure standing at the far end of the hallway, backlit, impossible to make out. But it looked like me. Same uniform. Same height. Same stance. The flashlight flickered. The footage glitched. For 2 frames, barely perceptible, my face on the figure warped. Mouth open too wide. Eyes too far apart. A distortion like melted film. Then the screen went black. For 6 seconds, nothing. Then the audio returned, fast footsteps. Heavy breathing. My voice again, panic now. No, 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 no. Then a sharp thud. A scream, short and wet. And silence. The footage resumed with me back in the patrol car, staring into the rearview mirror. But I wasn't reflected. Instead, there was something else. Just barely visible. A shape sitting in the back seat. Slender. Smiling. I stopped the video and backed away from the screen. Every instinct screamed to delete the file. But I didn't. I filed a report to the tech team instead. Told them it was a system error. Corrupted data. Just to cover myself. But I didn't mention what happened next. At the end of my shift, I found a note in my locker. Handwritten. My handwriting. Don't go back. It remembers. The paper smelled like dust and old glue. That night, I dreamed I was walking through narrow library shelves, flashlight flickering, breath catching in my throat. Every turn led back to the same hallway. And every time I looked into a mirror, I saw my own body cam, recording. Only this time, it wasn't strapped to my chest. It was embedded in my eye. When I woke up, my chest hurt. Deep bruised. I checked myself in the mirror, and saw the faint outline of something square, just beneath the skin. Like a lens. Tracking. Watching. Recording. Even now. I went to the ER the next morning. Told them I'd fallen on duty. Asked for x-rays. The tech frowned at the scan. There's something, he said, pointing to the monitor. Dense structure, subdermal. You have a plate installed? I shook my head. He clicked around the image. It's not metal. No ID tag. No surgical scarring. I asked to see the scan again. There it was. Center of my chest. Right under the skin. A perfect square. I left before they could ask questions. Didn't wait for a copy. I already knew what it was. It was the body cam. Inside me. That night, I opened the footage again. And this time, I watched past the end. After the figure in the rearview faded, the screen stayed black. For 5 minutes. Then, faint static. A new scene emerged. My apartment. Lit by the dim blue of my TV, still playing the same weather channel I'd left on when I went to work. The cam was now somewhere in the room, low to the ground. Watching me sleep. I was on the couch, twitching, murmuring in my sleep. The footage zoomed in, unnaturally smooth, like the lens wasn't moving through space but through the idea of distance. I turned in my sleep, and for the briefest second, looked directly into the camera. Eyes open. Staring. The screen went black again. I slammed my laptop shut and ran to the bathroom. Stared at myself in the mirror for 10 full minutes. Half expecting my reflection to blink out of sync. It didn't. But when I leaned close, I could see it, just beneath the surface of my right eye. A flicker of red. Recording. I didn't go in the next day. Didn't go in the next week. I got a call from Internal Affairs. Someone flagged my access logs. They asked about BCM_1123_UNK. I said I'd never seen it. They said it didn't exist. But that wasn't true. Because 2 nights ago, I got another recording. Not a file. A live feed. It showed my front door from the outside. Static. The camera bobbed as if it were breathing. And then knock knock. My real door. Not the video. Real time. I didn't move. Just watched the feed. A figure stood outside. Not tall. Not short. Wearing a police uniform. Mine. It smiled at the camera. Then raised a hand. Held up something small and black. A body cam. Still blinking red. Still recording. Then the feed cut out. I left my apartment that night. Drove until the gas light blinked. Slept in the car with the lights off. When I woke up, there was a folded sheet of paper tucked under my wiper blade. Chem 1123 confirmed. Returned for final upload. I'm writing this from a motel 3 counties over. There's a soft whirring in my ears now. Low-pitched. Familiar. I think it's coming from inside me. Some nights, when I close my eyes, I can see the playback bar hovering over my vision. Time codes counting down. 00:59. 00:58. It never reaches 0. But I think it will soon. So if you ever find this story, if you ever see a clip with my name stitched on the vest, walking hallways that don't exist, speaking to figures who don't blink, don't play it. Don't open the file. Don't go looking. Because once you do, it starts recording you too.